Okay, welcome to this month's Aspirational Healthcare Advisors Group, and we're going to hear from some folks from NeoSurx. Go ahead.
Thanks, Joyce. Joyce, you're on mute. Sorry.
Thank you, Daryl. Thanks for having us. You set it up nicely for us, actually, when you talked about aligned incentives a minute ago. That is really one of the core principles and foundations of Cooperative Benefits Group and NeoSurx. So we do recognize the importance and the value of having the partnership and the collaboration to move programs and things forward. Jeff, do you want to give a little bit of history of why we started Cooperative Benefits Group, and you want me to go into that?
Yeah, we started in 2020, so we actually stood up the company in the middle of COVID, which was kind of amazing. It was an experience doing that, but it's been great. And we partnered with a university-based health plan, and then we have other employer initiatives and other things ongoing. But it was just that we, like we said in the intro, we've been doing this for 20 plus years, and we know the model is not sustainable. One of my soapbox items is we're heading towards an affordability cliff. And unless we do something different, no matter what we do, patients are not going to be able to afford medications. And so we started CBG. It is a different model. We do anywhere from joint ventures with groups where we fully share risk, and to more of the traditional PBM work. And when I say traditional, I don't mean that in the sense of traditional PBM, because that term is misused, misunderstood. But Joyce hit the nail on the head. Is with this model, we've taken transparency to a different level, and it is my other soapbox term is aligning incentives. So with this model, the way it's set up is, it is again 100% transparent, auditable, open book, but we don't play the games. There's no way for games to be played within our model. So it's no spread pricing. Everything's done on a fee basis, again, which is very clear up front when we go in. Network rates are running fantastic right now. We use a combination of we'll get into this. We use a combination of aggregation, direct contracts. We intentionally also have not gone down the path of owning mail order and specialty and other things, because in our model, what it allows us to do is go out and direct claims to the best place. So we don't have any misaligned incentives to keep claims in-house, to our own SP, et cetera, et cetera. So again, we'll get into this, but our incentive to start this company was to find a sustainable model that is best for all of the stakeholders in the area, or within healthcare, so that we can deliver better clinical programs and savings and outcomes to members or patients, which is ultimately what we're trying to do.
Nice.
So a lot of times when we have meetings like this, and we will ask everybody to drop in the comments or speak up, please. That when you think of pharmacy, what do you think of? What comes to mind? Please feel free to do so. But often we hear, black boxes, games, lack of trust and confidence. And those are all the things that we're really trying to focus and reinstill in the pharmacy benefit, is a partner who has true integrity and is working for those best interests. We focus on a lowest net cost model and high service. We have a slide deck, and we can jump into to present today, but I want to make sure that we're covering the topics and answering the questions that you guys have. Is there anything particular that's weighing on your mind today around pharmacy that we can address? Or do you just want to, have us run through and give a little bit of overview of our clinical programs and some of our philosophies?
I'll throw something out. Transparency pharmacy is great. It's where I'm personally trying to go as I advise groups all the way. And I think this is ethical. And my primary reference at this point in time, my primary experience is with Integra. I'll just say that. And so, along the way, how you differ from them or whatever at some point would be great. But thank you.
Thanks,
Well,
Steve.
if you probably will do this, but kind of talk about what is your sweet spot? Where do you act as the PBM, and are you working specifically for self-funded groups? And is there a particular size that you take on? Kind of talk about your scope of service.
Great. Anything else we want to make sure we cover? Okay, Daryl, I'm going to start just answering your question first so we don't forget about it. As Jeff mentioned, we have a couple different models. So one is being as a joint venture partnership. So with health plans and working with health plans, we've found that they often have a lot of their own resources and pharmacy teams in-house, but they need some services or software and pharmacy expertise to enhance that. And so we've worked to do joint venture partnerships with health plans so that they can still take advantage of those own resources. We can align our work and augment the services that they already provide. Beyond that, we also do Medicaid and exchange. So the information, the health exchange, and then commercial products. So whether that be, employee owned or small group. So small groups varying in size from, we've got some groups that are a couple hundred up to 3, 5, 10,000. Sweet spot, I would say, and Jeff, correct me, I think health plans is probably that 50 to 250,000 life health plan group if we're working with the health plan, or more, of course. And group size, I think probably sweet spot is the 500 to 5,000.
Yeah, that I would agree with that. I will just say this, as a build on before we jump into a little bit more of an explanation on what we are, is what I found extremely frustrating in the last couple of years, especially, is when we go out and talk to prospective clients and brokers and consultants, we oftentimes see just these crazy numbers and inflated rebate numbers and everything else. And because and it goes along with a zero admin fee. So that should beg the question: if you have a zero admin fee, where's the money? And the frustrating thing is, all of these rebate guarantees come back and they're 50% of your total drug spend, and it's like, that is actually impossible. But when decisions are made and that there's really no accountability, because these things get defined, definitions change, they get caveated. These numbers never hold up in the real world after the fact, and the PBM is not held accountable for that. And we want that to be fixed. We want this to be fully transparent, partnership. We want to get on the same page. Again, we're not chasing rebates. We're not throwing dumb drugs on formula to drive up rebates, alternatively that also drive up net cost, all of that kind of stuff. This really needs to be a different model, and there needs to be accountability within the partnerships.
Jeff, are you compensated PNPM?
Yep, it's all fee-based. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So we retain a portion of the rebate, and that is again, what we don't play the admin fee games. All the other games. Again, we're more than happy to at some point down the road too. If we want to talk about the 30 to 40 black box games that PBMs do, and go down that path, I think that might be an interesting conversation. We don't do that. It's all auditable, very clear, PNPM. But when you put it all together and you factor in network rates and rebates and fees and everything else, 100% confident in that our net costs are lower than what we've ever seen in the market.
I think we've covered a little bit about just being a full service PBM from A to Z. Just real quick, our technical infrastructure is built on a couple bases. One is that just really being sound structurally. So we're 100% cloud-based. So we've got full redundancy and backup. We're one of the only that we're aware of, but at least if not only, the very few that is full cloud-based. And we want to liberate and free data. You know, we want to make sure that that data is available to the right people so that that information can be used so we can get a 360 view of the patient, and that we can make sure that we're, you know, we're marking and monitoring, looking and watching at trends. And then of course, security and safety is our forefront. We take our responsibility as an owner of personal health data very seriously. And so we want to make sure that our data is always safe and secure. As Jeff said, our network rates are great, are amazing. We do have a national pharmacy network, and we don't own any specialty or mail order pharmacies, so that we can keep our incentives aligned with what's best for the member. I'm going to ask Jeff to talk next about our clinical and our clinical programs and formulary management. So if there's no questions on kind of the core functions, then we'll go ahead and skip to the clinical operations.
Yeah, that was a good slide, but it's, you know, again, it's core functionalities of a PBM. So, you know, claims adjudication, all that kind of stuff. So it's, yeah, it, you know, shouldn't be any issues there. But, you know, in terms of the clinical team, obviously we focus on formulary and rebates. Our model is a little bit different. So there are really probably only a handful of organizations in the country that actually combine clinical and financial in committees. Most organizations actually separate them. We separate them, but we're different in that if you look at a large PBM, you can go to their P&T all day long and watch what they do, but they review clinical data. They don't talk about pricing, and that's not where formula decisions are made. And then typically then that goes to a subsequent what's called value assessment committee or formulary committee, where they look at rebates and that's where the formulary decisions are made. We put our finance committee before P&T, and our clients are welcome to watch it. We model it out, you know, the different scenarios out. We show the clients what it means if we did A and B, and then it goes to P&T, and we make the decision that is best for the client, not what's best for us based on what kind of rebate we can retain or anything else. And that's different, is that is done before P&T, and that is open to our clients and our partners. It's not closed door like, you know, most other PBMs. And then, you know, clinical ops and account management, we really are an extension of the clinical team. And, you know, prior authorizations of pills, clinical programs reporting, these are all, again, things that are fairly straightforward, but options that we do as a full service PBM. But I think the biggest thing is just pointing out the fact that it is an integrated clinical and financial conversation where we are looking at value and net cost. We're not looking at just rebates. Heidi, did you have a question?
I do. So what is your perspective on patient assist programs, as well as, offshoring as far as direct manufacturer? Can you share kind of what your perspective is?
So the offshoring in terms of like the GPOs and rebates. Yeah. So obviously, you know, tax purposes. But you know, when you do that, you know, what I've seen by doing that is, you know, rates are pretty good, rebates are pretty good, but you lose any type of reporting. And it's not, you know, claim level data. So again, I think it's just another opportunity for games. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And you know, as far as patient assistance, love-hate relationship, you know, coupons can be used as a weapon to circumvent benefits, and that's wrong because benefits are actuarial underwritten, but if they're used correctly, they're great. Patient assistance also can be good because, again, affordability is an issue to patients, but it needs to be done in a way that is in line with what the employer or the health plan wants, not circumventing the benefit. My concern is that some of these things are not sustainable because pharma right now is potentially paying, you know, double, triple dipping on certain drugs through 340B, rebates, patient assistance. And we've already seen, you know, some large manufacturers like AbbVie and Janssen who have, you know, drugs like Stelara and Humira, where they are actually now explicitly, targeting these programs. We have these programs because they're necessary. And we actually have a really good patient assistance program that's probably worth another conversation because it doesn't mess around with the benefit, and it actually zeroes out the benefit. And so these other types of programs can't be done secondarily. So we get the data, it's not disruptive to the member, and there are savings there. I'm just not sure they're long-term sustainable models, is my honest opinion.
Fair enough.
So as far as our formulary strategy, like I said, it really is around net cost. And we're going to show you an example of what that means on a subsequent slide. Channel management is really important. So, we as an example have moved CGMs and hemophilia and some other categories to the pharmacy benefit because the pricing under pharmacy is much better than under medical. But if you look at that, you could say, well, pharmacy costs are higher. But again, it's looking at cost-benefit management and net costs and what's better for the client. Steerage and impact to the system is another huge thing. So that's because, again, we don't own SPs, we don't own mail order. What we're able to do is say, that's a 340B claim that maybe shouldn't be within the health plan or within the system, that needs to go outside the system so that the health plan is actually retaining or getting the value of the rebate. Because if they're not doing that, they're actually paying, for Humira, $6,000 or $7,000 for a claim, and they're not getting rebate because it's being scrubbed out from 340B and the system is paying like 1 cent for that. So, steerage, I think, is a huge value add that we bring to the table. And we do that again because we're not vertically integrated, and we do that on purpose. We're not trying to keep that claim within our own SP. And then rebates, rebates, we use a combination of directs and aggregation. So, and you kind of have to play, in my opinion, you have to play both sides because some pharmaceutical companies value size and others value control. So we're not big enough that we're never going to compete with an Optum or a CVS or an ESI. But by aggregating up through them, we actually can get rebates on big drugs. But in other areas where pharma, values control, but also with the value-based contracting component of that, and on the medical side, we do our own contracting. So we have contracts on all of the biosims, in addition to a number of other things. And so again, it's finding the right pathway for rebates and pricing that delivers the most value back to the client. Joyce, next slide. Again, we'll kind of buzz through this. We only have a handful of slides here. I did want to show you one slide on as an example of what to look out for on, why focusing on net cost is maybe better for clients and patients and employers and health plans. So not to pick on a specific drug company, but, here's just one example of dozens. Biogen actually had a drug for MS called Tecfidera. It went generic at the end of 2020. And within 6 or 9 months before the drug was supposed to go off patent, and we see this all of the time, they came out with a reformulated version of Tecfidera called Vumerity. And they actively tried to drive utilization off of Tecfidera to Vumerity. And the claim to fame was that it might be a little bit better tolerated, it wasn't more effective, and again, they were able to maintain an $80,000 to $90,000 per year WAC price. So when that went generic, we actually saw that the market wasn't necessarily moving as fast as we wanted it to. So we developed a clinical program within a few days where we worked with patients and providers and actively converted market share off of the brand Tecfidera to the generic. And we did not specifically add Vumerity to the formulary. And within 1 quarter, we saved our one health plan client about $547,000. And again, that can be annualized to about, obviously, a little over $2 million. But the next slide shows even a more interesting component of that. And that is, again, by not adding Vumerity to the formulary, we were able to drive, again, utilization to the generic. And so if you look at the market shares on the left, we had a 3% market share on Vumerity, and that was just grandfathering people who came in that were new lives. We have a 97% generic market share, or if you look at national market share, Biogen's been able to carve out a 24% market share on Vumerity. So if you compare the net cost, again, you can get a rebate on Vumerity at 10 to 15%. But if you look at the net cost of an $80,000 to $90,000 Vumerity versus a $100 Tecfidera, the savings are significant. And again, in this particular situation, it was another incremental $1.3 million savings. So this is one example of dozens where we feel by looking proactively and holistically and not making short-term decisions at the sake of long-term decisions, that we're going to deliver more value to our partners. Yeah, and this, again, this talks about channel management and site of care, all of that. Again, we have no misaligned incentives to move drugs around to different places. So again, this is our, like I said earlier, not to be repetitive here, we use a combination of aggregation and direct contracting so we can get the best rates, and we shop that around. And we're going to put a rebate. We're going to either, if we can't get the best number directly, we're going to go, and aggregate it. But in a lot of cases, especially under medical, we can get better rebates doing it ourselves. Next slide, Joyce, and I'll wrap up here. I mentioned this too, again, it's channel management. So, hemophilia, by moving to pharmacy, actually saves a lot of money because now those drugs become rebatable, but also the fee schedules under pharmacy are a lot better under medical. Because again, by definition, 340B, hemophilia drugs are 340B eligible. And I guarantee that those health plans and systems are not passing those 340B savings back on to the client.
Was there a question?
Yeah, Steve, was there a question? I think it was Steve, right?
On mute.
Steve, do you have a question?
He's on mute.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I say, we're going to chase rebates in a couple of areas, just in full transparency. So if you look at, test strips, for example, there's no clinical differentiation between test strips. And so if we can narrow that category, manage it, and get a big rebate, we're going to do that. But we would never do that at the sake of clinical, and we would never do that at the sake of net cost. So it's all about net cost because that's what matters. I think should matter to a client rather than just rebates, because as rebates go up, net costs are going to go up. Yeah. Joyce. And then I don't know if we want to spend the time now talking about biosimilars. Again, that's probably another conversation, but we're, obviously this year and next year are going to be fascinating to see what happens with AbbVie and Janssen and the biosimilars. But again, it's about net cost, but we're flexible since, again, rebate games and rebate guarantee games and everything else is not in our wheelhouse. We have no misaligned incentive to chase rebates. So if a client wants to go biosim, we can go biosim. They want to take a rebate on the brand, we can do that as well. So it's modeling out the scenarios and offering hopefully an educated menu of options, if you will, to our partners where we want to find a solution that's best for them, not what's best for us.
Oops. I don't know why this is so sensitive. Anytime I hit one button, it changes in 3 slides. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for covering that and talking a little bit about our clinical programs. Before we move on, are there any questions that you have about our clinical philosophy or what we're doing?
Hey, anybody have any question that's on the call?
Yeah, how long is your contract? How many pages?
Our contract, it's probably 5 or 6 pages. It's pretty simple. It's very advantageous for both of us. There are no crazy definitions. Our definitions are very simple, and we don't have the caveats that are hiding language in different places. So really, truly not playing any games.
Well, that is the most compendious contract I've ever heard about in this space ever. So congratulated.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Joyce.
Thanks. I think Jeff mentioned, again, just aligning our incentives. So if we're working with, if our employer or our client happens to be, somebody that owns a pharmacy or a health plan, just that we have the ability, just through our service model and the way we control in our programs, that we can drive utilization. So if we're working with a health plan that has their in-house pharmacies, or if we've got a great alignment or arrangement to do a limited network or work within the community to drive utilization into a certain local pharmacies, that we have the ability to help provide that steerage and direction. This is a case study that we did with the health plan where we were able to help drive utilization and increase those fills into their in-house pharmacies. Let's see. I think, was it Heidi that you asked earlier a little bit about the specialty programs? So this, like Jeff said, it's a love-hate relationship, and we know that they are short-lived, and a lot of these specialty programs are coming to an end. Many brokers have demanded and required that that we have the programs available. So we do start with more than just the patient assistance programs. We start with the very beginning. So as Jeff covered, looking at the formulary placement and what we're doing with each of those medications, where they're best covered on the formulary, or if they have a place on the formulary. From there, it's making sure that we've got the benefit aligned. Is it under the right place, medical or pharmacy, and the coverage and utilization edits there. And then we have a specialty network. So we contract with about a dozen different specialty pharmacies, which allows us to bring competition into the market. And we can send one medication to one pharmacy because we've got a lower rate there, and a different medication into a different specialty pharmacy so that we can get the best rate for each member in each drug scenario. Of course, then we do work with patients and help them enroll into any patient assistance programs, any grants and charities or foundations. We do that all in-house. We don't outsource that to Payer Matrix or somebody else. That is done by our service team, a subset of our service team. We also have an international mail order and the ability to send prescriptions to be filled at first tier countries, like Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain. We have a good relationship with a pharmacy in Canada. They've got all of the tricks down to make sure that they can expeditiously get the paperwork done for the personal drug importation. And those savings for the plans of members that want to use that can be as great as 40 to 60%. And then the accumulator programs as well. So for those groups and plans that want to be able to adjust accumulators or maximize the copay assistance, we can do those as well. And those programs are, except for the international mail order, those are all things that are done by our team. That's so funny. I touch anything and it just wants to go. I think the next I'll just share is just on technology. Just talking really that we want to share that our data is shareable. We want to make it implementation and working with us as easy as possible. So we've built our platform to accept any file format for eligibility and data exchanges for accumulators and claims. So we'll do the heavy lifting and make it as easy as possible. We have member tools on the website, chat so that members can reach us where they're at, whether they prefer to have that telephonic outreach or just want to be able to send us a chat and communicate. We really try to embrace technology where it applies.
So Joyce, I have a question. I know with your prior company, one of the big things that always impressed me was your level of patient relationship and support. Talk a little bit about what your new company is doing in that space.
Yeah, thanks. So we have our customer service team and all of our service operations are located in Salt Lake City, Utah. We are 24/7, 365 service out of that location. So we never ever outsource service. Most of our service team is comprised of pharmacy technicians. So they have that understanding and empathy for the member, that they know what it's like when they're standing on the other side of that counter and trying to get the medication, and they hear a large amount that they're going to pay, or they get told that there's a prior authorization that's required. They know what that patient is going through, and they have a face that they can relate, just not a person that's on the phone. We try to make it a one-stop shop. So we actually have more outgoing phone calls than we do inbound, because if a member calls with a problem, we own that problem, and we'll call the pharmacy, the physician, whoever we need to help coordinate and see that to remediation.
Nice. We've got about 8 more minutes, so please ask questions.
Well, that door is always open for me, Cheryl.
Always good to see you, Heidi.
Yeah. So, Joyce and Jeff, with a lot of what's going on in the transparency world, and even though it doesn't yet fully apply on the PBM side, Are you seeing and do you support like hospital outpatient programs direct to employers where you're actually supporting the hospital in that initiative, going and offering a variety of different pharma options to employers, but being dispensed at the hospital side? Are you doing any of those programs?
Well, we have a JV partner, and that is
Okay.
actually a health plan that is part of an IDN, and they have a hospital in addition to a bunch of clinics and things like that. So that's just it.
Okay.
Is we do, and it again, it's directing. We direct a lot of claims, and I think that might have been on one of those slides. We have the ability to direct claims to wherever they want the claim dispensed. And again, we have no incentive to move it into our own SP or something like that. So. But we also needed to be understood that, the relationship between rebates and 340B and fee schedules under medical, just make sure that they fully understand what is the best
What the
dispensing
risk
channel. But
is,
if they want
yeah.
to keep that in-house, we have no incentive to do that. That doesn't be, that's fine. Again, it's all transparent, it's all pass through. So absolutely.
I'd like to, if you have any information on what you do in that environment, that would be very helpful.
Right. We will work on that.
What are you doing to help with patient compliance and adherence and just engagement? Is there anything on your customer service side that's helping to actually get patients to fill the prescription and actually use the prescription?
Yeah, so we do some, again, it depends on what the client wants. We do some traditional care management, also some interventional care management where we look at gaps in care and compliance as part of that. So if somebody has diabetes and they're not filling medications, as an example, or they're, getting, our focus actually, I think in an ideal world would be on prevention rather than treatment. But we do the traditional care management, and compliance is a big part of that. But we also look at gaps in care and other things. So it's modifiable based on what our clients are already doing. And so hopefully again, we look at it as adding bench strength and helping, extend and hopefully improve what the client is already doing, but it's also customizable and tailorable, but it's pretty robust.
Great. Would you like to expand on prevention? What are you doing in the area of prevention?
Well, so again, it's building triggers to look to see, if somebody's heading, and there we have we've looked at and built 80 plus triggers over the years, where again, it looks at different risk factors, lack of adherence, diagnoses, lack of visits, et cetera, to identify patients who are probably on a faster pathway to having an event and intervening and reaching out and having an educational conversation. And the other thing is when we do that, it's not about checking a box. And I know there's some health plans that if a nurse actually makes a call, that's a $3,000 savings to them. We don't do it that way. We're actually a lot more realistic on what we count as savings, but we spend a lot of time with patients, and it's not about getting on and off the phone. I mean, it's finding out what the real solutions are and answering the questions. So, this may sound bad to some people. This may sound bad, but I mean, we can be on the phone for 45 minutes with somebody because we want to make sure that they're taken care of and they're educated. And to me, it's the other soapbox thing that I will say. It's about engagement. It's about patient engagement. We all have kids probably. You can't tell somebody what to do. That's not very effective. So they need to understand why they need to do something, and it's usually more effective if they understand the why.
Martin, did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
Jeff, did you have a question?
Yeah, so Jeff, I love what you're doing, but in answer to Daryl's question about the patient adherence, do you have specific systems that provide some sort of automation to that adherence and engagement, or is it all based on relational?
No, it's both. Yeah, the adherence piece itself is fairly easily automated. So again, if you're looking at medication possession ratios, and again, if somebody's been on cardiovascular disease, an ACE or an ARB, a drug or like an ACE or an ARB or a diabetes drug, and they're not filling it. That's easy to do. That's claim-based. That can be automated. And, that can be done through a letter or a call or a text or something, whatever the technology allows for. But it's, but there's an option to go beyond that is kind of what we're saying.
So you're doing things that establish that engagement between the clinical practice and the patient to let them know. So you're frequently in touch with them.
Yeah, again, not everybody. Right? Again, it's the high risk people and the high flyers. I mean, they're going to get the more of the hands-on approach. If it's just a a simple educational thing around filling your metformin, that can be done more automatically.
Okay, I got you. Okay, thank you.
It's the high intensity, high risk, high flyers that are going to get the best ROI for a hands-on.
Yeah, for that attention. Yeah.
So it's the hemophilia patients. It's Hep C back in the day. We had a very robust program on Hep C. Hep C's kind of obviously changed, but yeah, where's the best bang for the buck? But some of it can be automated. Right. Some of it is best done manually. But we train our call center too around almost like interventional motivational interviewing techniques. So a lot of it is identifying what kind of patient you're talking to. I mean, are they a quote unquote A+ student? Are they a skeptic, et cetera? And how you intervene with them is going to be different. Some people are fine with letters. Some people would prefer a call. Others, if we tried calling some people, they don't want to talk to anybody. So a lot of it is understanding, what's best for patients.
So would you say that what you have is eminently scalable?
Yeah, it is. The issue is, obviously, the honest answer is that the rate limiting step is if we grew exponentially overnight, it's hiring and training new.
It's on your scalability is limited. Yeah. It's on the human service.
It's not the programs. It's the pharmacy technicians. Exactly.
So that is it. That's your qualifying condition. There's your pharmacy technician. That's your
So as Joyce mentioned, our call center is almost everybody is a pharmacy technician. We think that's valuable. So it's just finding people. It's the human capital to scale up. But as far as the processes and the programs, they're easily scalable.
Okay. So if the demand is there, you won't have any trouble scaling.
We will hire people and we will train them. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Good.
Well, we're at 3:00 Mountain Time, so I'm going to go ahead and close things up. I want to thank Joyce and Jeff. Thank you so much for participating today. We'll send the recording of this out to everyone, and that'll have, I believe, their contact information was on that slide, right, Joyce? I think we had your contact information on that.
I think so. I'll make sure, and if not, and I'll send you over a copy of the deck, Daryl, that you're welcome to share around.
Awesome. Yeah, if you'll do that, I'll send it out with the recording. But anyway, thanks everybody, and have a great weekend.
And I'll just say, again, thanks for having us. But if you ever want to talk about PBM games or anything else, hopefully you can view us as a resource. We have no problems, even if we don't, have a relationship or business or whatever. More than happy to, kind of shine a light on the industry, because that just benefits all of us. So I'll stop with that. But thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that offer. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.